Okay, Repony, this is a fair warning from myself. This is a sequel to Children of the Night. I only wrote this because I left the ending of Children of the Night so damn open, and there were some comments, not too many, but a few, who wanted some things resolved. Okay, I could have written one-parter, but I decided against that, so I created a new story. If you liked the ending in chapter 25 of Children of the Night, then I suggest you turn off your YouTube player now and don't listen to this fiction. Okay, that said, let's get started. A New Crisis, Chapter 1, Celestia. Twilight stood there in the crystal grave, rooted to the spot. She would die soon, and now this? Did fate really have no mercy on her? The last pony she had wanted to meet so close to her end was Celestia. Turning around to face her former mentor, she glared at her. Celestia, however, did not look threatening or intimidating in any way, which surprised Twilight in a few ways. The princess's eyes were red, and the fur beneath her eyes was almost gone from constant crying. The feathers on her wings were ruffled, and she looked untidy all over. It took her a moment to compose herself and say what she wanted to say without letting her pity for the princess seep into her voice. "You lost the right to call me that 64 years ago, Celestia." I wanted to talk to you for a very long time now, Twilight, but I was unable to find you anywhere. Something hid you from me very well, and I can only assume that it was Discord.
And if it was him, he has stayed by my side since that day, and what have you done? You went ahead and started a war with Cadence, your own niece. What in the wide world of Equestria were you thinking?
I was confused at the time. As soon as I realized what I was doing, I called all my forces back to Equestria, but Cadence won't agree to a peace treaty just yet.
Can you blame her? She has lost her faith in you, and so have I.
Please, Twilight, don't say that. The princess took a step closer to Twilight, who let her horn glow in return.
I lost my faith in you the day you refused to even try and help Pinkie Pie. You didn't even try to help her. What right do you think to have to be here in their final resting place?
Celestia took a step back until she stood outside the crystal grave. The last thing she wanted was to provoke Twilight even more. She had come here to talk to her, to try to set things right, but it felt more and more like a futile attempt to her. I was very impressed by that book you wrote about the war. It was you, right? I mean, Midnight Glow is the name you go by now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And some pony had to tell every pony else the truth about what had happened. They deserved to see your true colors.
I mean, yes, you're probably right. I had a very long time to think about all of it, and I am glad you published the book.
Then we agree on something at least.
Twilight did not let her guard down. She had come here to die peacefully, and this confrontation was ruining everything.
How did you even know I was here?
Oh, Twilight, you may be able to change your name, appearance, and even your cutie mark, but you can never disguise your magical aura. I have indeed felt you here several times before, but you were always gone before I could come here.
For a good reason. Every time I came here in the past, it was to bury one of my friends. But what do you care? For you we have been nothing but chess pieces that could be replaced if we are broken. Aren't you happy? When I die, you can finally look for the new bearers of the elements of harmony. Isn't that what you always wanted?
That's enough, Twilight! A purple claw pressed Princess Celestia aside until she was completely out of view. A much older Spike, now the size of Princess Celestia herself, entered the crystal grave. Twilight was taken aback, so much indeed that her horn stopped glowing and she took a trembling step forward. Tears formed in her eyes. Spike had been one of the many she had left behind when she had gone into hiding, and there had been not a single day on which she had not regretted it.
Spike, is that really you?
Yes, it is me, Twilight, and I'm quite mad at you, you know that?
I'm terribly sorry, Spike, but by the time I realized that you were left behind, Discord's magic wouldn't have worked on you.
So, you left me behind, all by myself, a baby dragon of just 15 years. His face, that had shown nothing but anger so far, softened, and a smile played around his mouth. But I understand why you did it, Twilight. I just wish we could have been able to meet sooner. The two long-separated siblings embraced each other in tears, while Twilight could not stop apologizing. But now, Celestia stuck her head through the door and mustered a weak smile. The princess took me in after you were nowhere to be found. I've been trying to find you ever since. It was me who found this place. I smelled you here, and so Celestia set heaven and hell in motion to excavate it. But as it turned out, the smell I had picked up was several months old. Twilight shot a glare in Celestia's direction, who immediately pulled her head back out of the grave. She was sure that the princess had not done this out of kindness. She knew that Spike was able to find her everywhere, magical disguise or not. Taking a few steps back from her adopted little brother, Twilight's horn glowed once again.
I guess if you already know who I am, then I have no use for this anymore.
A lavender glow of light enveloped Twilight, changing her coat back to original color. Her eyes turned from red to lavender once again, and her star-shaped cutie mark replaced the fake one. She had grown accustomed to having the jewel of her element on her flank, so it felt a little uncomfortable looking down on herself with her original coloration once again. Her mane, however, stayed in several shades of gray. "So you finally stopped hiding, big sis? I have never asked anything of you, and you owe me for leaving me behind, so please do me a favor and listen to what Princess Celestia has to say. I swear it won't take long." Reluctantly, Twilight let the glow around her horn fade away and sat on her haunches.
"Okay, Spike, I owe you at least that much,"
she said with a stern look on her face.
"But I can't promise anything. I will listen to what she has to say, and that's it. If I don't like what she says, I will kick both of you out of here, so I can finally lay down and sleep."
Slowly, and with her head hanging down, Celestia trotted back into the grave and sat down a few hoofs opposite Twilight.
"So, time's wasting. I'm not getting any younger, you know."
Celestia ignored the bitterness in her student's voice. Yes, she considered Twilight still her student, and somehow even close to being her daughter. She wanted to become clean with everything that had happened, and throwing accusations at each other was not the way to do it. Spike and Solar had shown her that over and over again over the last 64 years. "First of all, let me say I'm sorry, Twilight. I was thinking of the greater good back then and lost sight of what was right in front of me because of it. After being exposed by your book, most ponies have grown very cold towards me, and even if it is in my full authority, I did not forbid it, or stop teachers have their students read it during the history lessons. I was tempted to do just that, but I stopped myself every time. I am ashamed of what I did and how I reacted. I have lived for a very long time, and so I have dulled myself towards others. I was afraid of getting hurt when they died, and I was cursed to live on. I was so sure you would understand that one day, but I was wrong. Not in assuming that you would understand my actions, but in thinking I was right in the first place. My sister has abandoned me, the only pony I thought I would love forever. But then you came along, Twilight. You got under that thick shell I had built around my emotions, and what you accomplished by that was that I came to love you just as much as I do my sister. She has refused to talk to me. Even so, I try almost daily by now to get her to talk to me. I will continue to try until I succeed. Luna and I have all the time we need, while you and me might only have tonight left to talk about everything."
"So you finally admit that it was wrong you let Pinkie Pie die?"
"I don't."
"But you just said—"
I don't, because Pinkemina Diane Pie is not dead. Twilight was shocked and looked at the princess in disbelief. She herself had confirmed Pinky's heart and breathing had stopped. What kind of trick is this? Her corpse is conservated in crystal right behind me, she said, pointing a hoof over her shoulder for emphasis. Celestia, however, shook her head. The ponies in these crystals are not dead. They are in stasis. It is a side effect I learned of just recently. When one uses an element of harmony without this, she pointed a hoof at her own necklace, then they go into a stasis after their deaths. Their souls are trapped in their bodies while they await their reawakening. I don't know exactly how it works myself, since Sola has just recently revealed this information to me, but it seems it was a precaution built into the elements. The bearers would never really die, in other words, but it only works once. After they have awoken, they will have to use the elements without the stone again to have the same effect. So, you're telling me they are not dead? They are just in some sort of a magically induced stasis? That is correct. Their bodies were returned to the state they had the last time they used the elements of harmony, since that was the last record of the elements had about their physical state. Have you never noticed the coloration of the crystals they are cocooned in? Twilight looked over her shoulder and instantly saw what her former mentor meant. All the crystals were exactly the same color as the gems on their respective element of harmony. But how? When will they awake? That is something that can only happen if I touch the cocoons with the alicorn stone. It will destroy them and awake the ponies inside. But Twilight looked to one of the crystal surfaces that reflected her own image. I will still be old if you awake them now. Please, do it anyway. Princess, they deserve to live their lives to the fullest, not to be trapped in there for all eternity. The princess smiled weakly again. Twilight Sparkle, as much as I want to fulfill your wish, I cannot. The element's power only works if they are complete, and as long as you are still alive, I am unable to awaken them. Twilight looked over her shoulder again at the peaceful expressions on her friends' faces, then at the princess who was watching her cautiously. She sighed. If she wanted to help her friends, there was no other way. She thought she had lost all her faith in Princess Celestia, but now realized that this was not the case. The sincerity in her words made her believe every word of it. Even more, she was finally at peace with what had happened so long ago. Her mentor, Princess Celestia, had learned her lesson. She could not help herself but chuckle at the thought that she had taught Celestia a lesson. With a quick flash of her horn, she levitated a dagger from her saddlebags. She had brought it to end her life anyway. Discord had told her she would live on for at least another month, but she had decided that day, the anniversary of their victory over Chrysalis, was the right time for her to go. Celestia never saw it coming. Twilight placed the blade against her own back, directly behind her heart, and let it slip into herself. She heard Spike and Celestia scream in terror, and the blood seep from her body as everything around her disappeared into blackness. Spike held the lifeless body of Twilight Sparkle in his arms, crying uncontrollably over her death. He knew that she might live once again, but the chances for that were very slim. That much the princess had not told her, and he knew it. Soon he felt that a strong heat started to course through her body. Quickly stepping back, he watched as Twilight aged backwards until she looked the same as the day he had last seen her before all of this. When the crystal began to envelop her, Spike watched the blood that had spurted out of her wound disappear and merge with the crystal itself. His big sister was now dead, or was she in stasis? He didn't know for sure. The details the princess had given him were vague at best. An hour later, Celestia herself had checked the door of the crystal grave, ensuring that Twilight's cutie mark had indeed appeared on it, before she moved close to the 6 crystals that lay before her. For the very first time in over 1,500 years, she took off her necklace and began to touch the cocoons with it, one after another. Soon they began to glow in their respective colors and melted away. Now lay on 6 pedestals Sola had informed her were made of the same material as the elements of harmony themselves, 6 ponies that slowly began to breathe. None of them, however, woke up. "Spike, call the guards. We need them to bring the 6 to the palace." "Right away, your majesty." Celestia watched the dragon run off as fast as he could, as she walked over to Pinkie Pie and stroked her mane very carefully. "I'm sorry, Pinkemina." Tears coursed down her face once again and onto Pinkie's coat as she slowly began to open her eyes. "Hey there, princess! Why so sad? Come on, turn that sad frown upside down!" Celestia embraced the bearer of the element of laughter and could not stop sobbing. "Hey, what's up? Why are all the others here? Are we having a sleepover? And where are we? Princess?" The pink party pony asked, but got only more tears as an answer. 2 days later. Twilight stirred in her bed. She heard all over, and something was amiss. She could smell something she had not smelled in a long time, and heard things she had never thought she'd hear ever again. As she opened her eyes, she looked into the bright, grinning face of Rainbow Dash, whose face was only inches away from hers. It was only due to the self-control she had learned in her later years that she did not jump in surprise. "Hey there, and I thought I was the sleepyhead." Rainbow? Everything came back to her, the crystal grave, the talk with the princess, and her suicide. She could have sworn that she had died. Most likely that was even true, but the elements of harmony had somehow trapped her soul and performed this awesome feat of magic. Even she, with her extensive knowledge of magic, would not have anticipated this. "Is she awake? Oh, darling, you look horrendous." "Rarity, stop fussing around, will ya? She just came back from the dead. Who would not look a little shaken?" I'm glad you woke up, Twilight. We were starting to get worried." But before she was able to look amazed at all her friends, they were all caught in one of Pinkie's enormous bear hugs. They stayed like that for a while, each smiling that they were all reunited in life rather than death. Celestia came into the room and saw the 6 ponies she had almost lost forever. As they noticed her, Applejack, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash took up position in front of Twilight's bed. They had not yet forgotten what had happened all those years ago, neither had they forgotten their friends and family they had to leave behind when they went into hiding. A bright flame began to envelop Celestia, and she changed into solar flare, a thing that happened more often recently than she wanted to admit to herself. "Please, do not fear me, my little ponies. I know I might look a lot like my sister, but I am nowhere close to Nightmare Moon." Sola addressed the group of gathered ponies. For the last 2 days, no pony but royal servants had attended them. They were allowed to leave their room, but not without an escort of at least 3 royal guards each. They felt like prisoners. Even Pinkie and Fluttershy looked warily at Sola. "It's okay, girls. Solar Flare is all right. She's the princess's alter ego, like Luna's was Nightmare Moon," explained Twilight as she got up and walked over to stand directly in front of Solar Flare. Her eyes looked very much like those of Nightmare Moon, but instead of disgust and anger, she only saw honest concern in them. "I am glad to finally meet you in person, Twilight Sparkle. Writing letters while Celestia was asleep was not really a substitute for the real thing." "Yeah, I'm glad to meet you as well, but how come you are in front now? I thought you never wanted to do that ever again." "True. And as happy as I am to finally meet you, if it had been my choice alone, none of you would be here right now." "What do you mean by that?" Applejack inquired. "Celestia used the alicorn stone, against my warning. She did it when I was sleeping. As a result, all of you are now free of your cocoons, and can live a normal life. However, the result was a two-bladed sword, as I warned Celestia it would be. She is too ashamed to face the 6 of you, so I took over to make things quicker. We don't have the time to dilly-dally right now, or for lengthy apologies." "What's going on, Sola? What happened?" Your awakening broke the alicorn stone, Twilight. I surely must not explain to you what that means.
No, you don't mean...
Yes, they are all free, all of them, and they won't listen to a word I say. I can kind of understand that, because by alicorn standards I have grown soft. They are currently rebuilding my long-lost kingdom in the lands beyond Equestria.
What's she talking about, Twilight dear?
Twilight turned to face her friends.
The alicorn stone, the seventh element of harmony. It contains the souls of all corrupted alicorns there ever were. Now that they are free...
Her head jerked back to Sola.
What about hosts? How many ponies did they corrupt?
None, as far as I know. When I fused with Celestia, I needed a host because the elements of harmony were still suppressing me. They don't have that problem. They could reform their former bodies with ease. I fear for all of Celestia's subjects. If they are anything like I remember them, then Equestria is facing an enemy even Discord would not be able to defeat.
Oh, my,
Fluttershy commented as she tried to hide behind Rarity. The big alicorn started to frighten her a little.
But the elements, they could...
Sola shook her head. The alicorn stone was a part of the elements of harmony. I myself forged it so very long ago.
But I thought...
That I was corrupted? That's true. But I was able to see the evil of my ways before I was sealed. It's something I never told Celestia, but I switched sides about halfway through the Civil War. That's another reason they won't listen to me. They consider me a traitor.
So the elements of harmony won't work this time?
Twilight asked in shock. I am afraid not. The alicorn stone was forged by me, by using a piece of my own soul and forcing it to take physical shape. That amount of magic is beyond any living being right now. It took myself and 20 other naturally born or ascended alicorns to perform that spell, and even then 2 of us died in the process.
But can't you make Twilight an alicorn again? Then you were 2 already.
Rainbow Dash interjected. Again, Sola shook her head. She would be an artificial alicorn. What we need are natural alicorns.
What's the difference?
Pinkie inquired.
Simply put, Pinkie Pie, a natural alicorn is like...
Twilight thought for a moment, tapping her chin with a hoof.
An artificial alicorn is like a muffin, while a natural alicorn is like a really big cake. Do you understand what I mean? Oh, so what you say is when the princess were to make you an alicorn like before, you would be nothing like more than a slightly stronger unicorn with wings, while when you ascend naturally, your power would grow way more, so you could do much more stronger magic.
6 hoofs hit their respective faces, as every pony in the room except Pinkie Pie face-hoofed.
Pinkie, you understood that all along? Nah, just a hunch.
She smiled brightly, while the others wondered why they hadn't expected that from her friend. Pinkie had done such things in the past. So, what do you say, Twilight Sparkle? Will you ascend the natural way this time? Same goes for the rest of you. I can assist you in the process, but beware. The side effects are other than getting bigger and stronger. You will lose your normal special talents and will be linked to a part of nature instead. Also will you have to deal with very strong mood swings. If you give in to them and turn into something like Nightmare Moon, and let me tell you, that is very hard to regain control over your senses of, once you are corrupted. The 6 friends looked at each other for a moment before Rainbow Dash broke the silence.
I say we do it. It was our fault in a way that this happened, and besides, it's not the first time we had to fight for Equestria.
I agree with Rainbow Dash. If some pony endangers the lives of my grandchildren, then it is so on.
What is so bad about them?
Fluttershy asked. Sola gave her a surprised look before she explained. A corrupted alicorn does not see any other creature except fellow alicorns as a form of life. They will kill, hurt, and torture them just for fun. I used to be one of them, and I am ashamed of my actions while I was not in control. Fluttershy nodded, agreeing to the subject. Applejack was a little hesitant at first, but seeing that all her friends had accepted, she looked at Twilight, who gave her an approving nod. "All right, then, let's show 'em what we're made of, right, girls?" A collective cheer went through the room as Pinkie Pie also shouted out her agreement. "I have to warn you, though, ascending naturally is very painful and cannot be reverted. You will become relatively immortal, but will also have to deal with the mood swings and sometimes ridiculously strong emotions. Are you still sure you want to do this?" All 6 of them nodded, their faces wearing a conform look of determination. Fluttershy and Pinkie had no pony to protect, but Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Applejack, and Twilight could not stop to think about their families. They would protect them, no matter what the cost might be. First in line was Twilight. She had been an alicorn before, and had the magical potential to prove it. It had been Discord who had transformed her back, but she had trained her magic ever since. She was strong enough to ascend on her own, even though she had never wanted to do it. It would mean she would outlive Little Dawn, but she had to do it to keep her safe. Soon after the purple flames that had begun to burn away her coat had gone out, Twilight stood in front of her friends, as big as solar flare, and with a pair of beautiful purple feathered wings. Rarity needed some assistance from Solar and Twilight to ascend, but managed to do it eventually. All through the procedure she kept her mouth and eyes shut tight. When she was done, her cutie mark of 3 diamonds had been replaced with a single emerald gemstone. Fluttershy was hesitant, and screamed a little when the yellow and pink flames enveloped her, but she endured it just fine. The only one that collapsed was Pinkie Pie. The hyperactive pony fell unconscious right after her wings and horn had grown. Applejack was a little suspicious because of that. She and Pinkie were the only Earth ponies in their group, and she didn't really fancy passing out. "Whatever is the matter, Applejack?" Rarity asked as she levitated the unconscious Pinkie Pie onto Twilight's bed. It was unusually hard for her to do so, since she practically burst with magical energy. She feared were she to put only a little more energy into the spell, she would crush Pinkie Pie. "I don't know. Shoot, this doesn't feel right somehow all of a sudden." "I will not force you to do anything, fair Applejack, but please note that I chose you 6 because I trust you completely. If you were not pure of heart, the elements of harmony would not have chosen you. If you do not want to do this, then we will have to find another way to raise our numbers. But please know this, the Apple family is still tending to Sweet Apple Acres in Ponyville. If the Alicorn Nation rises once again, they will also suffer under their iron hoof." That was all Applejack needed to hear. Even so, she was still a little scared, and did not know the apples that were now tending her farm. They were still family, and for them she would do anything. Soon after, all 6 of them were alicorns, and the room was now a little too small for the 6 of them. Rainbow Dash was marveling at her newfound speed, and did not make things easier on the others with her flying around the room. "Twilight, it is done. Now I have a mission for you. Ponykind must be united, if we are to even stand the slightest chance against my former subjects. Don't forget that each and every one of them is at least as strong as you are now. The battle that we are about to face will be a hard one. I won't lie to you. There's a high possibility that we will all be killed in this upcoming conflict. They are thousands, and we are only 7. That is why I want you, Twilight, to enter the Garden of Shadows on a diplomatic mission. Applejack, Rarity, I want you to go to the Crystal Empire and try to convince Cadence to give me an audience." "Why us? She was Twilight's old foal-sitter." "Because I want to show her that I made others into full alicorns. That should convince her that I mean it. I may be stronger than you individually right now, but were I to face even 2 of you, I would be defeated. I want her to know that Celestia does no longer fear treachery from those closest to her. Also, extend my greetings to Diamond." "Will do, Solar Flare," Applejack said as she and Rarity left the room. "Oh, and Twilight?" Solar stopped Twilight as she wanted to leave as well. "Yes, Solar, what is it?" You might run into some pony you remember in the garden. Luna is very strong, never forget that. She has the same potential as me. She may have considered you a friend once, but only heaven knows what these last years have done to her. I have faith in her, but be on your guard. I will. What will happen to Fluttershy, Pinkie, and Rainbow while we are gone? I will teach them personally in the use of magic. Applejack will most likely receive some lessons from Rarity during their outing to the Crystal Empire, but I want you to teach her, since once they return. Why? Rarity is very capable. I want you to teach her, because amongst all your friends, you are the one who knows the most about magic. And now be on your way. Every second we waste is a second we cannot afford.